Okay, so I don't really know where to start. I never uploaded a YouTube video before. I, well, I guess I'm gonna start off that obviously it's like, well, not so obviously, it's like 1:30 in the morning. But I just want to point out that I obviously am not in any way trying to be fake, false, or phony. I don't care how I look or how I sound. I feel like I was called to say this message to the world, but most importantly, I think to AJ from the Y Files and Hecklefish because they're the best, number one. But number two, I seen an episode that they just did not too long ago about the CIA time traveling children, and there's a couple things that I feel like I can clear up because of experience and also just by things that he answered his own self. um, First of all, time is not linear. So, and again, if you're in your episode, you're literally not acting, but you're showing that the multiverse was created by the government or DARPA or whatever you had said, but that, um, and also we all know that we have free choice, freedom of choice, free will, whatever have you. So therefore, when you were just trying to almost discredit people's throughout your entire show, and I love your show, by the way, love you, love Hecklefish, and again, your channel has grown so much, your team has grown so much, your money has grown so much. I'd also like to point out, too, because one of the things that you love to discredit people about is them making money off of their content or their hard work or stories, but yet you make money off of yours and your team and your CGI and all that technology that you use is now also available to you because you have financially gained off of your content, as you should, because it's work. But I would like to point out that I in no way want to receive any type of fame, clout, monetization for this video or any book that I am working on or publish, because again, these are things that the world should know, and I in no way wish to gain anything other than helping people gain peace of mind or filling in the puzzle pieces that may be missing. First of all, if you are in a time jump or time loop or a different dimension, or as your CIA time traveler episode pointed out, that the operatives that were in missions saw themselves, right? So, well, first they all either died or went crazy, and then as the program developed, they then were seeing different versions of themselves from previous jumps, because again, every time you go through the jump or the time through whatever calling or purpose or operation they were running, you will exist on both or all timelines. So if you jump 100 times, there's going to be 100 yous. Now, some of them may die, some of them may leave behind a piece of themselves, like i.e. a photograph or something. They're going to see themselves, and again, the reason, like you pointed out, that children were better useful because their minds are not so closed. However, there are adults that are capable of having an open mind and a spiritual grounding and biological flexibility and intellectual capability to grasp and understand what is happening. Like sometimes, too, so you pointed out that like people's stories changes. Well, if something changes in the timeline, then the entire timeline is going to change. So therefore, nobody's lying because every story is true. It's just either that version of themselves or that operation. That's what happened in that timeline. And again, not all of the, so say it's you. I'm going to use a lot of you. So say you are the time traveler, right? Or and then later you go to give an interview or something like that. Well, the you that is giving the interview is not going to have the same experience as any other you because of free will and also uncontrolled variables. So, like, just because you do the same thing throughout your lifetimes or time jumps doesn't mean the rest of the world or timeline will, because everybody has free will, and every choice creates a ripple effect that would change the timeline, right? And just because the timeline changes or your experience in that timeline changes, all the other yous don't change as well because they're experiencing their timeline or their choices or the uncontrolled variables, actions, and interactions with you. So again, every story isn't a lie or even a false memory or a conspiracy or what have you. It's that literally that experience or that description is for that person at that timeline true. So again, you just crediting their stories for changing is kind of silly because again, every science experiment, right, you have a control group or a control variable or element, whatever you call it, because again, I just like to point out I'm a regular girl. I'm about to be 40, a female, but also like to point out that science and magic, the difference between science and magic is literally time and society's acceptance or ability to grasp or understand and contextualize what is happening. So also too, like we know that certain technology exists and we consider certain things miracles or luck, whereas other cultures or experiences and languages would call those literally nothing short of miracles at all, right? And so, too, we speak of too like a simulation, like or the game of life. Like the game of life is real life. This is a game. We are the devil and God is real. The different entities and spirits and cryptoids or cryptics, whatever you call it. I'm not sure because I don't use Reddit and I don't have that as a vocabulary because again, I know these things to be true, like werewolves and skinwalkers and fairies and leprechauns and angels and demons and Satan and God, and also too I know the ability behind so like consciousness, right? So like people who again different cultures call everybody wipes their ass, but they don't all call toilet paper toilet paper. Whatever they're saying is in their language and their culture. And the difference between a cult and culture is literally the size and the socio-geological, economical acceptance that the interpersonal relationships and acceptance calls it, right? So, and right now, the way that what we used to call magic, we now call medicine or science. And I'll say the word like evolution or evolving because, again, our consciousness and our intelligence has evolved. So, therefore, but again, we are limited in what we are exposed to because of the powers that be that are in control are trying to supposedly protect us, right? Like, but it's really about control. And so, say, like, in your episode specifically, there was a machine that they could go through and you discredit it because it was plugged into a wall or something. However, I know that at that time it was in a government facility and it was government contained. But now I know that it is also because of many different factors, but there is now the same machine being utilized inside what looks to appear like a regular old house. And again, there's not, America gets so wrapped up in thinking we are like the only ones. Like we're the smartest. It's humankind. It thinks that like we are the top tier. Like there's nothing smarter than us, wiser than us. But also forgetting at the same time, things best hid are in plain sight. Like the more you try to hide something and call it a secret, make it secret, the more that people are going to easily discover it, or it's going to be, again, because a source, we are collective source. Our brains are transmitters and receivers. So again, there is nothing new under the sun. We are just catching up to what already exists, or what our minds are, and intellect or spirits is able to accept. Because a lot of the time when we have somebody who is super intelligent or super spiritually gifted, we label them as literally crazy, or look at the witch trials, right? Anything that is different or what's not, because we like to play ostrich. We like things the same. The only way we can even process things is by relating it. This is why, too, with, and again, I'd like to point out that I in no way rehearsed this freaking video. I might jump all over because, again, I'm a regular-ass person, and I'm talking to a camera. So, and again, this is something very complex, but also so simple. But I'm trying to say it in a way that will make it relatable and ingestible, right? Because sometimes when you get all wrapped up into making it sound smart or, being all proper, like, or authoritative, then people are like, reject the idea. And also 99% of what people don't want you to know, that we know the easiest way to discredit something is to call it a conspiracy, or to label it crazy, or a fairy tale. But also, so like in any board game, right, there's rules to this. And the rule of life is that they have to tell you what's going on. So if you look at the movies, you look at the music, they will have been telling us for a long time. We just think of it as entertainment, whereas actually it's them telling us what's going on, and we are binding ourselves. And also the best way to have a slave or a prisoner is to make them not think that they're in prison or a slave. So we have become slaves to false idols or to false delusions that we have to pay to survive, or the like Protestant work ethic or Catholic, and because I say those words for lack of better words, okay? Mind you, in no way is the government or religion a bad concept, or money a bad thing. The problem is we as humans are fallible, we're corruptible, and it takes like one bad apple to spoil the bunch. And again, we are a social and herd species. So we will, once one person gets back up, then that idea will catch on and catch on and catch on. That's why, again, and again, Kennedy died over this, right? He even told us, don't listen to the media. Don't listen to the government. We think that because we vote that we are really in a free country, or we think that democracy is a grand idea, but that's not the world that we live in. We have these misguided and misrepresented constructs of what is religious or governmental truth. But in fact, we are a republic of the people, by the people, for the people, because we wanted to be free from the crown, from taxation without representation, freedom, separation of church and state, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. But we forgot that freedom of does not mean freedom from. But we also forget, too, that there's a system and a construct and a hierarchy, just like there's a hierarchy of needs, like your body and mind and soul. There's like 5 things and you have to have all of those things in order to thrive. However, we never usually meet those things. And my greatest argument, by the way, I'm kind of getting off track here, but my greatest argument and backup proof for God's existence is because we are God, and that is why when we obtain whatever it is our goal is, it is never going to fulfill you. You're going to be on to the next one, whether it's a job or a prize or a house or a car or a bank account number. Like, it's never going to be fulfilling because we think that we are deserving of the world and everything, and we also are trying to keep up with the Joneses. So, and again, we get deluded in this idea of the people on TV or magazines or the neighbors. We're trying to keep up with them, or that delusion of what we think is happiness. Now, I'm not saying that money don't make you happy, because it's way better to be crying in a Mercedes than it is on a bicycle, and I never seen a sad person on a fucking jet ski. Excuse my language. However, back to my point, that also too, so back to this point of God and the devil being real, is if you go to, not to be all religion, but hear me out. You checking here so far? Are you keeping up? So if we are, and again, because I'm going to mix up a lot of different things all at one time. So boom, the Big Bang. So God, in the Bible, it says God first spoke into existence. What is speech? Speech is a vibration. It is a frequency. It is energy, right? So, because again, I used to joke around that one day there was nothing, and then nothing just started to dance around, and I should drop my phone up somewhere because I'm a very movie person and talk with my hands a lot, blah, blah, blah. But let's see if I can, because again, I'm just sitting on my kitchen floor and I'm moving. My house is a wreck. But anyway, so boom. So say there was nothing, but then one day nothing started moving around, getting a little jiggy with it. And what happens? So that creates friction, heat, more, and then boom, it collides, and there's a spark. Bam, there's dinosaurs. or what even better, that heat created light, fire, spark. That is the Big Bang. If you go to a biological explanation, at conception, when a sperm and an egg meet, the moment they meet, you can watch it under a microscope, the egg and the sperm meet, bam, there's a bright light, a spark. That is divinity. That's the divine spark. That's God's power and passion and force being brought into an organic, yet not fully formed organism, right? So, and again, so I'm losing my train of thought. But in the Bible, so when he's saying Adam and Eve, whatever he made that formed them from the earth. So again, we are flesh and bones and blood and organs, but this is all in order to make that. We as a human body, one body, is actually millions of different other species. Like 80% of your body is alien species or bacteria, microorganisms, and different elements and species that literally make us up. When people think, they're like, oh, 80% of your body is also water. We think water, we think like we drink. That's not the same kind of water. There is fluid, yes, but anyway, back to my point is, so when we are made of the earth, which is, again, the Lion King, the circle of life, right? We are all one, and when there's like the grass is grown, we eat the animals die, we go to the earth, blah, blah, blah. Jamaicans, Rastafarians say, like, we are one because we are brothers and sisters under God, because God created us. He is the Father and the Son. Well, the Son is S-U-N, because, again, you can't have life without the divine spark, without and without the sun or without the water. So and again, there's 5 elements, just like they say 5 senses. We now know that that's not true. There's way more senses than we realize, but we are just evolving in our ability to understand God's amazingness, or the universe's amazing complexities. Because we thought we're so smart, but we're so smart we're stupid. But anyway, back to kind of where I was going with it. So, and again, in the Bible, they said there is a fall. And now many times in the Bible, they use the words gods. Let us make them in our image. And when there's the fall, right, there was angels, but there's many different types of angels. And again, there's many different types of animals. However, we, so again, but we are corruptible, it's 2 sides of the same coin, light and dark, good and evil, night and day, male, female, duality, right? You can't have really one without the other. That's why even females have a masculinity to them, or males have a feminine side to them. Or the Indian cultures have always described like 2 wolves or 2 dragons inside of you, and which one do you feed, which one do you nurture, and which one do you let out, and when. Now, when the fall happens, and Lucifer, which was the morning star, okay, the light, he was a light bearer, when he fell, God said to him, when it all ends, you will then be in hell. But and then Dante's Inferno, right? There was 9 levels of hell. It wasn't just one hell. We also think when we talk about heaven and hell, or space, we forget that when even describing God creating the earth, that there was a firmament. Okay, and like even recently, we just had all these millionaires and billionaires and rich celebrities who went to space. Okay, and we see every day, well, not so much every day now. It's starting to back up again, but again, I remember in the 90s, like the Space Center in Florida was often letting off rockets, or there was astronauts going to space. However, anybody who has eyes or a brain sees that the rockets, and again, the Germans, way back when, we was trying to blow up the space because we are trapped in a dome, like literally an upside-down fishbowl, because again, we are on the earth, but again, we don't ever talk about what's inside the earth. And when we talk about the earth being a sphere or a ball, we also never talk about what's underneath it, right? So because again, if there's space above, then there has to be space below. Why do we never, even when we're talking about the world spinning or whatever have you, we never talk about, and we talk about the equator and the North Pole and the South Pole, we never really talk about the space underneath. or how I think Neil deGrasse was just talking about how the highest point of like elevation is like 11 miles, which is like the same as going down. Like, but yet we also know at the same time that supposedly the ocean is blah 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 millions of billions. I'm exaggerating, of course, miles deep. It's so unresearched on this. We in the center we think of the world being like a ball of magma, liquid this and liquid that, but yet now we are knowing there's entire atmospheres or jungles and caves and caverns and everything that's inside the center of the earth. Or like, again, I'm just going to jump onto another tangent real quick. Antarctica, because you love to talk about Antarctica, okay? But here's the thing that many people realize. We think of it as an ice barren land that's undiscovered, untouched, blah blah blah. But yet every single country because there was an Antarctic treaty, and again, certain groups had at first decided, yeah, let's go here and let's do this and set up these stations so we can have a place to do experiments that's not exposed to man. Plus, we are always exploring. When we were back as like cavemen or nomadic beings, because before we had established civilizations and cities and towns and such, we had the people that they would stay here, but then the hunters and gatherers would go out, and the rest would stay there and watch the children, take care of the homes, build up this reserves that the hunters and gatherers brought back. We would store them, process them, whatever, utilize them. We talk about fire, and that the tools like fire and the wheel is what developed us suddenly from these ignorant caveland orangutan beings. And I say that because we used to believe the evolution thing was like Neanderthal and then Homo sapiens or whatever. And I know I'm skipping a bunch of steps, but again, I'm not a scientist, not a physicist, not a biologist, but I'm just explaining things to what I have observed or have experienced or even God told me to talk to you about, or even that your video had triggered something to call me to tell you. So again, 80% of our population has the RH factor, they're RH positive, which is the Remus monkey gene that everybody shares, which is another reason that we thought we evolved from monkeys, for lack of better wording or whatever. However, we share more genetic similarities with a banana peel than we actually do with any marsupial or orangutan or whatever that you want to call it. So that was just an interesting fact here. But anyway, and again, where did we get fire from? Lightning, the burning bush, that was literally, it was caught on fire from a lightning. And again, we utilized that fire and had to keep it going and going. Even these biblical stories about the lanterns, once we had figured out oil and fuel, before that it was like a struggle, before we had electricity, all those. And again, there's certain groups and certain powers that be that want us to be ignorant and divided, because like the Bible says, it's not flesh and blood that we're fighting against, it's principalities and princes. And they want us to be. And again, if we're such a free country, why do you need a passport to travel? Why do you need a driver's license to travel? Why do we forget that the certain laws, like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, these things were to protect us as a republic, by the people, for the people, against tyrannical governments and corporations. We label things like fascism, communism, democracy. We get these things all mixed up. Our churches are perverted. Our education system is perverted. We literally are so smart that we're stupid. Okay? And again, we are so smart, yet again, magic, okay, so cancer, AIDS, we've had these medicines and the ability to heal naturally from, well, from a lot of it, because since, look at Magic Johnson, look at so many other celebrities that were super sick, but yet somehow they healed. Stem cells, people, again, it was illegal here, but yet you could go to the Panama or Philippines, I forget the exact place, but like Mel Gibson was talking about it on Joe Rogan, that he literally took his father, or athletes go and get these things injected into them, and they're literally like rejuvenated. We also know that cyber technology, cyborg or prosthetics have the ability to give you limbs again, and we have literally a nanotechnology that literally can be programmed into somebody's arm and make them literally a cyborg basketball player, football player, just depending on, again, socio-geological, economic, cultural standing, where you are and where you're from, and who you know, and so these is all different things. But anyways, so back to the original thing about the CIA time traveling children. So now it's and again, the point of, I tangent off onto God, by the way, because again, and magic and science, because the technology is not in, just like MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, we used to colonize land. Now we're colonizing people. We have always been the commodity without realizing it. We have always been slaves. They used things like the Cuban Missile Crisis. We have learned so much about, especially since 9/11, right? That terrorism, counterterrorism, not realizing too that Osama bin Laden, Jeffrey Epstein, Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, El Chapo, all of these people were either CIA operatives for ages until they got enough money or political and social backing to rebel against the American government, or they refused to cooperate and then became a threat. So again, Satan is alive and well. And so I'm going to go to back to the book of Job, where there is like a family reunion or a dinner, because Job's children used to come to go to dinner. So again, I was saying that God and the devil must be brothers, because Satan shows up at the dinner and they say to him, "Where did you come from?" And he's like, I was out just wandering. But nobody was like, "Get the fuck out of here. Who are you?" Excuse my language. Instead, he was just pulled up a chair like he belonged there. And again, in the Bible, okay, so like, and God forgive me if this is blasphemous in any type of way, but again, I'm just trying to express it to the people a little bit better. So like, if the game of life is either a game, and the goal is to obtain souls or energy, because let's go to the science base of it, the movie The Matrix, right? Or this is a simulation. That synchronicities, like attracts like, right? Magnets, or so like say we're an algorithm, right? And when you're going to go, as you experience life, you're going to attract people and places and things that are on the same path as you, and again, or something silly like when you go to buy a car, and you're like, "Oh, I'm getting this car." And when you go home, nobody had the car before, but now everybody has the same car as you. Is it now that everybody suddenly went out and copied you, or was it just now your awareness is more aware of what everybody else has? Or is it the fact that you're a magnet and this is an algorithm or a multiverse, so every different levels, different devils, right? Or different players. You're going to be on the same game level as the people that are on the same level as you spiritually and mentally, or socially and economically. Because why? Again, even in like, I'm just going to pause the video for a minute. Okay, actually, I'm back, but I'm going to time out because I think that at 35 minutes on my first YouTube video talking about all kinds of crazy things, I think, number one, people are going to be like, okay, I'm done listening because we're in a fast world. So I'm going to end this here and then maybe continue my spiel in a next video, or maybe look back at it. No, I don't want to look back at it because I want it to be a little bit more organic than maybe what most people are used to, and to get it all out while it's right here on the tip of my tongue. So I'll be right back probably in the next video if you ever see this one, I guess, because I don't even know how to upload it. But thanks for listening if you listened, and hopefully I figured out how to do it.